What's going on, everybody? It's TripleCrown24 back on this Monday, October 18th. Hope everyone's doing well today. I haven't made a regular upload like this in 4 to 6 weeks now, I think it's been. I've had a few people reach out and ask, is everything all right? You know, are you burned out? Is everything's going well with the business? And everything is going well. I do appreciate those of you who have reached out to ask. And I wanted to do a video just to kind of touch base. And let people know it's not like the world's going to end if Triple Crown 24 isn't doing his thing like normal. It's just that it's nice to keep in touch with people, and you guys can let me know in the comments down below how you're doing with life in general as well, not just with the hobby, but let me know how you're doing if I haven't heard from you in a while. I always like to hear from you guys as well. What's been going on with me, to answer that question, is that things are growing. So I'm coming up now this week. In fact, I think it might be tomorrow, is the 2 year anniversary of when I started selling cards full time. That was when I set up at my first show, and I didn't know it was going to be a full-time gig at the time, but it quickly morphed into that, and I would say by Thanksgiving that same year is when I really knew that this was something that was going to stick. And here we are 2 years later, where I am going to be moving in to my first office space at the start of the month. It's not going to be a shop. There's a lot of reasons why I don't want to open an actual shop. It's more so going to be like a private office to work out of, and it will be open to some extent, by appointment only, of course, but it's not going to be something where you can come and shop around. I'll do a video on the shop, I just said the shop, on the office, when it is all set up. I have like all the security measures in place. I've got my furniture stored right now. It's just a matter of moving it in. I just need a couple more pieces of furniture, which shouldn't take too long. I'm planning on wrapping that up here early this week, and then things will be pretty much set up and good to go. And it's been a long process. I've had to do a lot of paperwork, stuff that doesn't really make for fun video content, just officially forming an LLC, officially getting all these different accounts set up, and making sure I'm in compliance with various regulations. So the boring stuff, don't get to play with the cards and give people joy by giving them mail days or selling cards, getting cards graded for people, all the things that I really enjoy about it. This was more so the behind the curtain work, but it's important. That's the stuff that has to get done in order to kind of continue to live out this dream and continue to build something that I'm definitely proud of, where I've gotten to. So, of course, as you might imagine from all that, there's been a lot of nights where I haven't gotten much sleep, a lot of very long work days, working from before the sun rises to after the sun sets, and haven't really had a lot of time to do a lot of things, including making videos. So apologies for my absence, but that's where I've been, if you've been wondering. So that kind of ties into what the title of this video is, the future of Triple Crown 24. And there's two different ways that's going to kind of tie in today. The first one is kind of what I've talked about in terms of the business, where I'm going with that. And there are certain things that I just can't or don't want to share on camera regarding the business for various reasons. Some of them are privacy related. Some of them is just I think it would be extremely boring. But if you guys have anything that you would like to see as I go along with this journey, because I think it's fun to document it, let me know what you would like to see down below, because I would like to tie more into what I do. Selling cards on this channel, for the most part, it's me showing off things from my collection and doing the reveals, but there's a lot of untapped content that I probably could be making. I just don't know if people want to see it, and if they do want to see it, what exactly they would like to see. So let me know. Any feedback is definitely appreciated. I'm always open to new ideas. So the other part of it is kind of what I've been buying in terms of my collection. And we're 2 months removed now from Miggy's 500th home run. aftermath of that event has pretty much played out exactly as many people told me it would for years now, and as I kind of expected it would, and that would be that prices have gone up. To give you an idea, the 2021 Bowman Chrome Superfractor went to auction, and that was the first one I've seen at auction since his 500th home run. I had purchased the Superfractor on that same day from a friend in a private deal. This was the first one at auction, and it went for $679, which, to give you a little bit of perspective, that is more than double what I've ever paid for one. And even on the higher end ones, I've had cold feet to pull the trigger on some of those that I purchased back then, but those definitely seem like bargains compared to what that one sold at auction. And I don't know if this is the quote-unquote new normal for Miggy cards. I don't know if things will eventually fade. He pretty much has a layup 13 hits away now from 3,000. So you have to imagine he'd get that by the end of April 2022 when the next season starts up, which is only going to put more attention on him. And the Tigers look like they're heading back towards becoming a contending team with a lot of bright young stars. They figure to be one of the bigger spenders this offseason. We'll see how it plays out. So definitely a few guys that I would like to see come to Detroit. But again, we're still getting through the NL and ALCS, and then of course the World Series. So there's still a lot of time to see what happens there. But things have been definitely tough to pick up. I've lost a lot of auctions, and I've had to be very selective of what I've been purchasing. For the most part, a lot of the lower end stuff has just gone for way too much, and perhaps it's just that this is how it is now, and I need to get used to it or choose not to buy these kind of things. And I keep in mind that I've already built up a lot in this collection, and I have nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, this is my collection. Of course, I should be proud of it because it's mine, and I love what I have. And instead of focusing on what more I can add to it, I've definitely become more appreciative of what I've had. And I'm not going to force myself to do to pay amounts that I'm not comfortable with and go beyond my means. For example, the gold refractors from 2021 Topps Chrome, I've seen sell for $100 or more. And it's extremely difficult for me to justify placing a bid for that when I think the most I've ever spent on a Topps Chrome gold refractor is $25-$30. So you're talking, when you have those kind of multipliers on things, it's difficult to remember how it was and adjust. And I think we've all gone through that to some extent here in the last couple of years in the hobby. But it seems like given Miggy's milestones, it's definitely hit me harder in more recent times than maybe it has hit other people in the months that have led up to this point, and especially as things start to correct themselves a bit. So September 2021 was actually the slowest month I've had in terms of the number of different cards I've added to my collection. And that will probably continue to be the trend. I'm going to be adding things that I think are the best value, as I always have. And there have been some good deals still to be found. So I am going to show some cards now of a few of the things I've picked up. First up, I do want to show a little care package I got from Frank over at Frank's Cards and Collectibles. I do like Frank's handwriting a lot. He's got nice handwriting. So I want to display this in the YouTube binder here at some point in time. But he sent me a few Miggies for the collection. Very kind of him to think of me and set these aside. This nice hollow flow here on the 16 Donruss retro style there, the 82 retro. There's another Donruss variation there. Little archives and some Ginter mixed in as well. So Frank, I do appreciate you thinking of me and sending those my way. Let me see, what else do I have in the stack? I've got one more from another friend here that I'm going to save for a moment. Like I said, there have been some good deals to be found, and this is one of them. This is a card that I think really speaks to the discrepancy in singles prices compared to wax prices right now. So I do think the singles market as a whole in certain cards is particularly strong at the moment. It definitely favors sellers, but in some cases that also means that the wax prices on certain things I don't think have correlated with how cards have done on the singles market. So for example, right here, I don't know what they're at right now, but direct from Topps, I believe it was $250 to get a box of Finest Flashbacks 2021 this year. So I saw this black refractor pop up at auction. It only had a few hours left, and it was sitting at $31 or something like that. I'm like, dang, that is really cheap. And I ended up getting this for under $60 out the door with taxes and shipping on it, which is pretty remarkable to me that even if you were to buy this at the Topps price, which I have to imagine they're probably going for more than that on the secondary market, this was at 1/4 of the cost of a box, and you're not guaranteed to get one of these black refractors. Miggy is definitely towards the top of the list of the guys that you would want to get. Maybe not at the very top, but I'm sure if you open a box and saw a black refractor Miggy, you would probably be very satisfied to pull one of these, and it's just remarkable to me that that one went for as cheap as it did. So like I said, sometimes you can find the deals, and that just happened to be a card that I was after anyways, so it worked out. This one also, like I said, I imagine that the box prices are more than the $250 that they were direct from Topps. And if that is the case, then this card was probably right at or even below what a box would cost. And this is the autograph gold refractor. These are numbered to 15. And that to me, just the fact that you could pull a card like this, which these are definitely not easy pulls, and Miggy is definitely one of the better names on the autograph checklist, and that this card on its own couldn't even cover the cost of the box when it's probably one of the better hits you're going to see in the product. Just, it's a sign that something is not right. I think with the recent rookie classes, they just haven't been as lights out as we've kind of been spoiled since really, I would say 2017. There's been a lot of really strong young talent come up and have rookies in various products, but this year the guys just aren't producing, and you're not going to get a stud every single year. You know, there's not a Hall of Famer in every single, or Hall of Fame rookie card in every single Topps release, flagship release that is. That's just the way that it is. And some years are going to be a little bit slow, and some of these guys are going to figure it out. It's just not going to happen right away. I think we're kind of in this instant gratification mindset where when these guys don't become like Trout right out of the gate, we tend to, I guess, tear them down a little bit, and their prices reflect that at times. I kind of saw that with Wander Franco earlier this year, and he had a fantastic year in my opinion. I think the Rays were very happy with how he produced. Of course, Rays didn't get as far in the postseason as I'm sure they would have liked, but hey, he had a great year. And I don't know, just sometimes it boggles my mind sometimes. But I think we're due for a correction. I don't know when that will happen, but I think that with some people seeing retail wax returning to shelves, that might be a sign that it's more imminent than we might have thought. But this one was the last Miggy that I'll have for you today. I do have some more stuff to show off, as you can probably tell by the length of this video. But this was part of a trade that I made with my friend Eric, and I hope he's watching if he is. Eric, thank you again. I got everything safe and sound here. He threw this in. He's gifted me a Miggy autograph that I showed before on the channel. He's sent a few other Miggies my way. This was one of them here that he tossed in. It's the black and white mini diamond from Chrome Light this year. New product, or new collation or configuration, I guess you could say, of Topps Chrome. These are really sharp. I was kind of skeptical about how these would look. I didn't really think that they were going to be too special when I saw the mock-ups for them. But I had a few sent in to me on consignment, and when I saw those, I'm like, all right, you know what, I'm going to crack, and I'll pay up for a Miggy if I see one at a price that is at least somewhat reasonable, where I won't get sick to my stomach knowing what I had to spend on it. Not that I ever want to put myself in that position, and I don't put myself in that position buying things for the PC, but it you know what I mean. But the main part of the deal that we made was actually for this card here. And I've been showing some cards like this on Twitter recently. And I've had some people ask me both publicly and privately, what are you up to right now? Because I'm the Miggy guy, right? That's who I collect. I don't really do anything else. I have my Tigers autograph project, which I've been picking up a few here and there, nothing too crazy. But people are wondering, what is TripleCrown24 up to? And I'll tell you this because I don't think I've ever said this on the channel before, but I have something that's called the Vault. Now, it's not this huge bank vault safe. It's not a physical thing. It's more so a metaphorical vault. These cards are kept secure in a different place than the rest of my cards. And if you were to ask me, is this something that's your PC, or is it something that is, I guess, considered store inventory? And it actually falls somewhere in between. So the idea of my metaphorical vault is I actually emptied it out during the springtime because a lot of the things I had in there were just going for crazy prices, but it's cards that I'm not really too attached to. If something were to come up, let's say financially, or the cards just it got to the point where I just couldn't justify keeping them for what they were selling for, then I would move them. And some of them are actually in my store. They're listed for probably above what market value is, if you want to say that, for the cards. And I'm okay with that because I'm not in a rush to move them. In terms of what's my strategy for picking these up, there really is no strategy. That's probably a bad thing to say, and to build, I guess, if you want to call it a collection, without, just kind of throwing caution into the wind, or whatever the phrase is, and just, seeing what sticks. It can be dangerous to do that, and sometimes you can be left feeling unfulfilled. But with a lot of these, it's just when I see something that I feel is undervalued or underappreciated, I'll go ahead and pick it up, and I'll just kind of put it in my metaphorical vault. You could say that I'm diversifying. I don't really want to use that term because it sounds like it's a stock portfolio that I have here. It's not really diversifying anything. I'm just adding some more variety. I guess that's a synonym, but whatever. It's adding some more variety to what I have, and just having some nicer cards, things that I could take to shows and put in the showcase and show off as well. And just, if the right buyer comes along, then yeah, they can have it. It's not like my Miggy stuff where that is what I would consider PC, so to speak, where it's off limits. Unless you offered me enough for me to retire right now, I'm not going to sell you those cards. If you did offer me that, though, I would probably have to take it at that point. But these are things that are more or less they could be moved if needed. Some of them are not listed in the store just because I don't really know what I would want for them right now. Like this one, for example, is not. But this was the card I got from Eric in our trade. It's the 16 Elite Extra Edition Juan Soto, his first Panini card. Of course, released around the same time as his Bowman. First Bowman card. These are numbered to 999. I like the image a lot. He looks kind of young in this photo, but I mean, he's going to turn 23. He's a young-looking guy anyways. I say that as a young guy who is a young-looking guy. But it's just one of those that I wanted to get a couple of nice Sotos. I know several of my buddies are big into Soto stuff, and they've kind of inspired me a bit to go pick up a few Soto cards. One of his little counterparts here, Ronnie. This is one of those that, again, it really stood out to me. This was a card that I acquired from a good hobby friend of mine, and a good friend of mine, nonetheless. B-Rolf6, owner of Card Soup, and always does a great job. If you're looking for some higher-end singles, especially some vintage singles, I recommend you check him out. If I have a good selection of lower-end singles, I would say that he is the equivalent of having nice higher-end slab singles, mostly PSA and SGC. Both vintage and modern and ultra-modern, for that matter, across many different sports. But always a pleasure to do business with Brian, and he does a fantastic job. Give him as much of a positive recommendation or review as I possibly could. But we made a deal for this. This is the Acuna Action, and I acquired this card. Keep in mind it's already slabbed up, and it is in a 10 holder for the same price of a hobby box of Heritage High Number. And again, I think this goes back to the wax prices now, where even though 18 Heritage High Number, you could definitely justify why it is so expensive, because Ohtani is in it, Soto is in it, and Acuna is in it. That's 3 pretty good players that all have rookies in that product. So yeah, it's going to be expensive. But the Acuna Action is probably, I imagine that if you open a case of this, because the actions are hobby only, you get 1 in a box. This is probably one of the best cards, if not the best card in the entire case, especially if you were to grade out the entire case or just the really good cards. This one came back as a 10. And the fact that this cost as much as what a hobby box of this cost right now, it almost feels like, to give you an idea, so the wax prices for the longest time, I like to use the Trout update. It's kind of become the benchmark for a lot of the things that we do in the hobby, even though a lot of times I think it's a bit of an outlier. I could do a whole video on the Trout update. That's not what this one is about. But for the longest time, the price of wax on 2011 update typically followed based on your odds of pulling a Trout base. So it's a 330 card checklist. You figure how many base cards you get in there. We assume that all base cards have the same odds of being pulled. And then you kind of price that based on where the Trout card is selling in a PSA 10. Now, that card is definitely not an automatic 10. You think that a card that you pull fresh out of a pack that was pack issued in 2011, some people are confused why it's not an automatic 10. Well, it can be off-centered, and that's just something that you cannot control. It might have been dropped somewhere, and there's a few dinged corners on some of the cards, and that happened to be one of the ones where it was dinged. You just never know. But it's gotten to the point now where it's approaching, well, actually, it's not approaching, it is in the territory of the Jordan Fleer card, for example, where you're seeing that the wax prices of 86 Fleer, now granted, I don't think, you don't see as many, I think, 86 Fleer sealed boxes or sealed cases go up for auction as you would see 2011 update. And there are definitely different kind of configurations for 11 update that weren't available in 86. But it's gotten to the point that even if you pulled a Jordan and it graded a PSA 10, that it may not even cover the costs based on your odds of pulling that specific card for however much quantity of 86 Fleer you're opening. And that's kind of the same case with the Trout now, that I think that a hobby box, I think even if you pulled 2 Trouts, the wax price would not justify it, even if they both graded a PSA 10, which is pretty crazy to think about. I don't even know if a Topps Gold Trout, maybe if you got a gold and it was a PSA 10, which that's the key. It has to be a 10 on top of that, and it has to be with PSA on top of that. Even if that was the case, I still don't know if you would get, if you would be able to say that you broke even on it. So that's kind of what I've been looking at with some of these here, is that just playing that wax price to my advantage. Now, will those prices ever come down? I don't know. If people and the doomsdayers who say that we're in the junk wax era part 2, if 2018 Heritage is produced as much as it was in the junk wax era, spoiler alert, it was not even close. But see that it were to be and the prices came down, or none of these guys ended up becoming Hall of Famers, which something's going to be really wrong with baseball if one of those 3 from Acuna, Ohtani, and Soto don't end up being in Cooperstown. That's definitely going to be a bad thing for baseball. But saying that one of those guys, even if they don't live up to the current expectations that have had for them and continue playing at the pace that they have at this point in time, it's still going to be a very expensive box to open for a long time now. It's going to take a lot of time for that box to really fall. Even if you look at something like 2012 football wax, for example, I think is a really good example of this. that has been probably one of the wildest rides that we've seen for wax. And I wish I had some cards here to show as an example. I know I'm just sticking on the Acuna for a while, but this is just a point that I wanted to make in some observations. 2012 football wax is still, I think it's even more than what it was upon release. And part of that is because you do have Russell Wilson rookies in it. And I think without a doubt, Russell Wilson is what is carrying 2012 wax, aside from maybe some Brady, some rare Brady cards. But very rarely would you see a veteran carry a product like that unless there was a specific card that was extremely significant, or the set itself was extremely significant for a different reason aside from who is in it, than maybe what the set actually represents. My point being is that card, Russell Wilson was this third-round pick when he came out. He was a short guy who we weren't sure if he was going to make it. We weren't even sure if he was going to start. It was Matt Flynn and him who were kind of competing for that starting spot. Matt Flynn signing the deal with the Seahawks after his big game against the Lions, of course. But 2012 wax, Russell Wilson was a consolation prize if you pulled him. It was all about Andrew Luck. And then kind of after the 2012 season, a lot of people were on RG3, even though he hurt his knee in that wild card game against the Seahawks. A lot of people were on them. And there was still hope for Ryan Tannehill even. Brock Osweiler had his day in the sun there. Remember Brock Osweiler? When Peyton Manning was at the end of his road, they turned it over to Osweiler, and he was extremely hot. And then when he left Denver, he was still extremely hot, and then he kind of sizzled out. And then Tannehill saw a bit of a resurgence here with the Titans. I mean, they went to the AFC Championship game. Now, how much of that was really his doing, I'm not so sure. I don't think Ryan Tannehill is an elite quarterback by any means, and I don't know if he would be drafted in the top 10 again if you redid the 2012 draft. But the point is that wax is still strong, if not even stronger than it was back in 2012. And it might not even be, who's to say that Gleyber Torres doesn't come back, or maybe he gets traded somewhere and then becomes what we thought he would be back in 2018. There's just a lot that can happen. So that was my long-winded way of saying that you just don't know exactly what's going to happen with this in the future. But like I said, it would take a catastrophe for this stuff to go down. So the fact that I could get this at the same price as what a hobby box would be, it just makes a lot of sense to me. Here's another card that's like that came in recently. This was an eBay pickup. This is no rhyme or reason to these, really. Just when I see them, I see it, I see the price, and I think something is not right about that. And that was the case with this trout here. This is the Sparkle foil, as PSA has it labeled here. It's numbered to 190. You probably have heard these referred to as foil boards before, and they have really started to take off in recent years. For at least a decade now, Topps has done different factory set bonuses, including some factory set exclusive parallels where you would get a little clear plastic pack of just a few of the random cards in the base set that would have parallels that were numbered. And that's kind of what the foil boards became. In classic Topps fashion, they took something that was relatively limited and started to blow up the print runs a bit. So you see here in 2018, these are numbered to 190. And there's only one type of foil board. You move ahead one year and they actually cut the print runs a bit. There was only 162 of them for the 2019. And then in 2020, things change. Now there's two different types. There's a retail version, which this one, the pattern on it is what the retail version is today. That was numbered to 264. And then there's a hobby version that was numbered to 229. Now why they chose those, I have no idea. But that's what they were numbered to. And then you would have the various different parallels that had print runs, and of course the 1-of-1 foil fracture set as well in 2020. And then this year, I think they've doubled the print runs on the different foil boards for both hobby and retail. So you're talking that there's probably 4 to 6 times as many foil boards with both the hobby and retail if you combine the two as there were just 3 years ago. So I think they've definitely lost a bit of their luster. But again, if you think about it, I was alluding to this earlier when I was talking about my Miggies in my collection, but it's getting very difficult to find certain parallels just because the higher print runs and the increased odds make it difficult to get the parallels. Like, you don't get as many as you used to in a box or a case or whatever configuration you want to look at. And then to get the specific player you want, you have to multiply those odds that have already been increased by the number of subjects on the checklist, and we have to assume that all subjects have the same odds, which we can because they're all serial numbered the same way to the same number. But it makes it increasingly difficult. So you think of something like this, an 18 factory set, you're going to get an Acuna rookie out of it. You're going to get an Ohtani rookie out of it. So there are incentives to do that, to open those up and to chase those foil boards, because those foil boards are extremely expensive. I saw a few at the National, and they're not cheap. They're actually, they might be a tad undervalued, but they are not cheap, in my opinion. And you're only going to get 5 of those in a pack. Now, the checklist in 2018 is 700 cards, so you don't even have a 1% chance of pulling a specific player. You would have to open 140 foil board packs, so 140 factory sets with perfect collation to get a complete set, meaning that you would get the specific player that you want. So it's really not easy, and those factory sets, they were $50 at release. I believe they might have been $40. You will not find them for those anymore. I don't know what they are worth now, but I have to imagine it's at least double that. That would still be reasonable to me, so keeping that in mind, it's probably even more. If I think it's even reasonable at that price, it might even be like $200 a set. Who knows? But I don't know how many of these Trouts, what's out there right now might be what's out there, because to open up one of those sets right now it's pretty much gambling, especially when there are different ways to access the guarantees that you get in the form of the Ohtani and the Acuna base rookies. And keep in mind, there is no Soto. There is Glaber, but I mean, it's really a two-horse race there with Ohtani and Acuna. And then lastly, I know I've been going for over 30 minutes today. This is a longer video than I anticipated, but I had a lot of thoughts I wanted to get off. It's been a while since I made a video. Mosaic Genesis Brady. Some of you have already seen this card. I've shown it off on Ryan Card Collectors 2's channel for his most recent trade night. He actually did a kids trade night recently. That was really cool. I did not go to it because I'm a big kid, but I was not the target audience for that. But the previous trade night, I guess, at this point in time, I picked this up in a deal. Now, I have really enjoyed trading over the past year to year and a half. That's one of my favorite things to do at shows, is to kind of use what I already have to make trades. In fact, some of these vault cards, if you will, were acquired via trade. And I just love it so much because it's an old school way of doing it. Yes, there is a lot of monetary value that goes into it, but I just love the idea of being able to trade things around. And kind of the way that I go about acquiring things is that a lot of times in trades, if you look at current market value, a lot of times I don't come out ahead, or people might be getting a little bit more in terms of current value. And some of them they scratch their head at why I would make a move like that. And a lot of times it's because I don't really have as much into those cards that I'm trading away as what their current values suggest. I might be into them for nothing at that point in time if they were part of a larger deal. That's a different topic. I've said that quite a few times in this video. But a card like this, I would say that we were pretty close, my trade partner and I. There was some cash that was dealt on my end to get this done, but I traded away a few cards, and maybe he got the better deal out of it, but he did get 2 cards for his PC, and then he got a nice Soto rookie, and he got a really nice Mahomes Zebra from 2020 Select, the die cut retail version. So he got some nice cards, and I was able to get this one Brady Genesis, and maybe he got more value out of his end of the trade. But I've always seen is that you don't have to match it dollar for dollar on a trade. If both parties are happy, then that's a good thing. That's a win in my book, as long as both people feel like they got what they wanted out of the trade. No one's feeling like they're getting screwed. I feel a lot of times people get really, really caught up on losing the value, missing out. And I could have said that with the Mahomes. Maybe I got $50 less for it than what I could have got if I would have sold it. Well, maybe I hold on to it, and in a month from now, the value on it has dipped 50%. And now all of a sudden that $50 doesn't really seem like it was that much of a loss. So things change so rapidly that just because of what it looks like right now, doesn't necessarily mean that in the future it's not going to be different. And I'm also not going to try to milk people for every single penny I can get. I know that seems counterintuitive. I sell cards for a living, and any salesperson is going to want to try to get the most for something that they can. They're going to get the most for their product as possible. But just the way that I do it, I would rather make that go down and build that relationship, make that deal, make a memory, make an experience out of making the transaction happen, than to walk away over what becomes pennies on the dollar in some circumstances. $20 on on some of these types of cards, really in the grand scheme of things, isn't all that much. A $20 card, I think about if I'm going to be buying it for my collection. Don't get me wrong. I'm thinking, do I really want to spend $20 on this? But when you're playing with cards that are this big, then it's the percentage wise of what their value is, so to speak. It's a fraction. And I've seen people who haven't wanted to do deals with me over $5. Like, they wouldn't even come down $5. And maybe you could say, well, Triple Crown, stop being such a cheapskate. Why don't you just pay the extra $5? And you know what? Fair enough. But just that stubbornness, sometimes it can be off-putting. So I guess that's just a tip. If you're someone who's selling cards or trading cards, just because maybe it's going for $10 to $20 more on eBay, sometimes it is worth it to build that relationship and to make that sale then, or make that trade then, as long as both parties are happy. I mean, if you're really unhappy with it, don't do it. Don't force yourself into anything. But it's definitely a give and take thing in the hobby. And that's just been my experience. You can take it or leave it. I don't claim to be an expert. That's just been my experience. So this was one of those trades where I felt like it was a pretty fair deal for both sides, and we were able to talk through it quite a bit because the guy was a little hesitant to give this up. And I mean, it's a Brady Genesis from Mosaic. I would be very hesitant too. If I got a really strong offer on this, I would really have to think about whether or not I would take it. This is one of those that is in the store right now, but it's going to require the king's ransom to leave my hands at this point in time. So, I kind of asked him what he wanted to get out of it, what he liked about the cards that I had to offer him, what he didn't like about some of the cards, what he really felt like he wanted to get out of the value or out of this deal. And to understand that and try to understand, I think it helped because I knew what I wanted. I wanted this card. And I wanted to do what it took to get this card, as long as I was, it was within reason. And he told me kind of what his concerns were, and what, we had this just open dialogue, and it was very refreshing. And this was really, I think I bought 4 cards total. Yeah, I bought 4 total, but the other ones I spent a total of $20 on the other 3 that I had purchased. So this was really the only big time deal that went down, and the only actual trade. The other ones that were purchases, the only trade that I made at trade night. But that's kind of the beauty of it, is, you get inside people's heads. You get to see why they wanted to do certain things, like why they want to make certain deals, and being able to create that understanding. It's not something that you really get dealing over the internet. I try, but it's just not the same as when you're face to face. It's really different to do it from behind a keyboard or do it from a smartphone. So that is one of the things that I've really grown to love about doing this, coming up on the 2-year mark now. And I don't know how many in-person things are going to be happening for me in the future. I'm still going to do shows, and I have a few more planned here for later this year. And I'll still do some in 2022 as well, in terms of people coming in and making deals with me at the shop. Not the shop, again, I keep going back to that. at the office. I don't really think that's going to be something that happens. Who knows? Maybe things will change. We're still a long ways from saying anything definitively, but you know, I've really enjoyed this part of it. So that was 40 minutes of me talking. I'm sure that's much more than most people can stomach, so I should probably go ahead and cut it off here. But if you stay with me for the entire 40 minutes, I do greatly appreciate it. Let me know what you thought of today's video down below. I'm glad I got to show off some cards and, just talk a little bit. So until next time, take care, stay safe. Great to touch base with you guys again. Remember to be kind.